The cool autumn air swirled around the stable as rain drummed against the terracotta tiles, a steady rhythm that mirrored Gabriella's heart. She stood resolutely at the threshold, her shawl wrapped tightly against her frame, eyes focused on the chaos unfolding inside the old stone barn where Fantasma was kept. Every scream echoed like thunder, raw and primal, cutting through the damp silence of night. "He's at it again," Maya stated matter-of-factly, stepping beside Gabriella while handing over 2 steaming cups of coffee. The warmth seeped into Gabriella's cold fingers, but couldn't chase away the chill that ran deeper, a familiarity with this torment from within. "Third night this week. The stable hands are terrified." Gabriella took a sip, letting the bitterness awaken her senses while she thought about Fantasma, the white stallion whose fury seemed to boil over more frequently lately. "Have they tried?" she asked quietly, already knowing what answer awaited her. "Everything," Maya interrupted before continuing with irritation evident in her voice. "More hay, less hay, music, silence, nothing calms him down. Uncle wants to sell him before someone gets seriously hurt." A jagged bolt of lightning illuminated the silhouette of Fantasma's stall momentarily. It felt as if even nature understood his rage. Within those walls lived not just a horse, but a tempest unleashed, a creature tied up in pain and fury beyond comprehension. Gabriella felt a pang in her chest as she remembered Fantasma's arrival at Hienda Vientos 3 months earlier. Her uncle, Don Rodrigo, had paid a princely sum for him, convinced that he could harness greatness from bloodlines steeped in royal history. Carthusian horses bred for emperors and kings. But instead, found himself grappling with an unmanageable beast who wore his fury like armor. She had grown up enveloped by these animals. They were part of her childhood tapestry woven across golden fields under blue skies, horses meant to be companions rather than prisoners locked behind wooden bars. And yet, here was Fantasma, magnificent yet terrible, an embodiment of everything that can go wrong when trust is broken. Gabriella's upbringing had been laced with expectations overshadowing her true self. She often felt like a ghost wandering through lives brightly lit by others' ambitions and talents. At 22 years old, the daughter of Don Rodrigo's late brother, she was often relegated to shadow status beneath Maya's assertive leadership or Javier and Christian's natural ease with writing. Maya glanced over at Gabriella as if sensing her internal struggle brewing behind distant eyes fixed on Fantasma's prison, a stormy tempest lurking just beneath their surface calm. "You should stay away from that stable," she advised carefully but firmly enough to draw Gabriella out of reverie. "Fantasma is dangerous," Maya added bluntly, while rubbing her temples in frustration as another scream pierced through the wall between them and darkness beyond it. "Even father won't approach him anymore." Gabriella's heart raced, echoing the chaos inside Fantasma's stable. The autumn rain drummed against the tiled roof above, each droplet resonating like a distant battle cry. She could still hear the haunting screams of the stallion, a sound that pierced through the night with raw intensity, a voice filled not with fear, but with an almost tragic fury. As she stood in the doorway of the stable, her shawl wrapped tightly around her shoulders, Gabriella felt a magnetic pull toward that anguished creature. "Why does he keep screaming?" she whispered to herself, peering into the shadows beyond the doorframe. "Because he's a devil horse," Maya replied curtly from beside her, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee, one for Gabriella and one for herself. The warmth seeped into Gabriella's cold fingers as she took it gratefully, but remained fixed on Fantasma's stall. "Your uncle is ready to sell him off before someone gets hurt," Maya continued, rubbing her temples as another scream echoed from within. "Do you really want to get involved with that animal? Even father won't go near him anymore." But even as Maya spoke, Gabriella sensed something deeper within those cries, an emotion mirroring her own hidden loneliness. Fantasma was angry. She understood that rage all too well. It was not just fury, it was a profound sense of betrayal and isolation. A storm raged inside her cousin's mind as she contemplated the stallion confined behind those heavy wooden doors. "I have to at least try," Gabriella murmured under her breath, more to herself than to Maya. "I can't just stand by while everyone gives up on him." Maya shifted uncomfortably at this declaration, but didn't push back further. Perhaps there was understanding in her silence or recognition of something familiar they both shared. The desperation to be seen and acknowledged amidst overpowering voices demanding conformity. The next morning arrived crisp and clear under a pale sky illuminated by dawn's first light. Gabriella woke long before anyone else stirred in the household, slipping quietly out of bed, determinedly committed to confronting whatever lay behind those thick walls guarding Fantasma's fragile spirit. The estate felt serene and untouched. Cork oak trees lined pathways, adorned with climbing roses, as if nature itself conspired to shelter them from turmoil. She walked past fields glistening with dew until she reached his stable. The older building, standing sentinel away from other training facilities, felt foreboding yet intimate at once. Breathing deeply, she steadied herself against a wave of anxiety bubbling up inside before stepping closer to where Fantasma was housed. Gabriella paused outside his stall door, listening intently for any sound. The scrape of hooves against stone, mingled with rustling hay, created an eerie symphony that spoke volumes about his state of mind. The air was thick with tension as Gabriella approached the trailer, her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. The morning sun broke through the clouds, casting long shadows on the ground, creating a stark contrast to the chaos inside her mind. She could feel every nerve ending buzzing with anticipation and anxiety. Today was not just another day. It marked the beginning of a new journey for both her and Fantasma. She had spent weeks building trust with the stallion, each moment an exchange of soft whispers and gentle encouragements that seemed to carve away at his fury. Now they stood on the precipice of something monumental, loading Fantasma into a trailer meant for their first public outing together. "Are you ready?" Maya's voice cut through Gabriella's thoughts, laced with uncertainty. She glanced over at her cousin, who leaned against the side of the trailer, arms crossed tightly over her chest, as if shielding herself from what might unfold. Gabriella nodded firmly, despite feeling a flicker of doubt. "I have to be," she replied softly but resolutely, straightening her posture as if drawing strength from the very earth beneath her feet. Maya stepped back slightly, giving Gabriella space while still watching intently. Her expression, one part skepticism and 2 parts concern for both horse and rider. The sleek white stallion stood nearby, his elegant frame tense yet alert, shifting slightly on his hooves as he surveyed this unfamiliar contraption. The door of the trailer loomed large and ominous against its backdrop of tranquil countryside, a gateway that felt more like a prison than transportation. "Come on, boy," she encouraged gently while stepping forward slowly to close any gap between them. The horse turned his dark eyes toward hers. They held an intensity that spoke volumes, a silent communication forged over countless days shared in quiet companionship. With purposeful strides, she approached him until only a few feet separated them. "You can trust me," she whispered softly. Fantasma's ears pricked forward at the sound of her voice. There was recognition there, an understanding formed through months of patience, and it sparked hope within Gabriella's chest. She knelt beside him quietly for several moments before extending her hand towards him, palm up, fingers relaxed, the gesture inviting rather than demanding. Fantasma regarded it cautiously but did not shy away. Instead, he took a tentative step closer, as if weighing his options carefully. "That's it," Gabriella cooed encouragingly when he finally reached out to sniff her hand delicately. Her heart swelled with pride as he leaned in slightly more, a good sign, but then abruptly pulled back as shadows danced across his instincts. "No pressure," she reassured him gently as she maintained eye contact, anchoring them both in this pivotal instant filled with uncertainty yet brimming potential. Gabriella knelt in front of Fantasma, her heart racing with anticipation as she extended her hand towards him. The air was thick with the earthy scent of hay and leather, mingling with the faint whiff of rain that lingered outside. Fantasma's dark eyes flickered toward her, cautious yet curious. Every tense muscle in his body seemed to vibrate with uncertainty, but this time, instead of retreating into the shadows of his stall, he took a tentative step forward. "That's it," Gabriella murmured softly, encouragingly. Her voice floated through the stable like a warm breeze on a cool morning. She could feel the electric connection between them, a silent agreement forming as they both navigated this delicate dance. Her palm was upturned, fingers relaxed and open like an invitation to trust rather than command. As he leaned closer to sniff her hand, Gabriella's breath hitched. There was something profoundly exhilarating about this moment, a breakthrough born from months of patience and quiet understanding. Yet just as quickly as hope ignited within her chest, he recoiled slightly, as if shadows still haunted him, instinctively aware that danger lurked around every corner. "No pressure," she reassured him gently, never breaking eye contact, their shared gaze anchoring them both in a world filled with uncertainty, but also immense potential. Fantasma stood at the threshold between fear and acceptance. Gabriella could see it in the way he shifted his weight back and forth on his hooves. She remained there for what felt like an eternity, silent but present, allowing him space to breathe and think without feeling trapped or cornered by invisible walls built from past trauma. The rhythmic sound of raindrops against the roof harmonized with their quiet communion, a soothing backdrop for this fragile moment unfolding within those stone walls. After several minutes that stretched endlessly between them, Fantasma took another small step forward, the tension easing ever so slightly in his powerful frame. His nostrils flared wide as he drew in her scent mixed with fresh hay and familiar surroundings. Slowly, curiosity began to overshadow his wariness. "You're safe here," Gabriella whispered again. "I promise I won't hurt you." A surge of determination welled inside her. She refused to let fear dictate their relationship any longer. It would take time, she knew this. But each small victory counted toward healing, not only for Fantasma, but for herself too. Days turned into weeks as Gabriella dedicated herself entirely to building trust between them, establishing a rhythm crafted from mutual respect rather than control or dominance. She found comfort in routine, arriving before dawn each day, carrying nothing more than an old wooden stool and some apples hidden away in her pockets. Settling down beside his stall became a ritual, an unspoken agreement forged over countless quiet mornings spent together under dim light filtering through high windows above them. Their little sanctuary tucked away from prying eyes outside, where expectations loomed heavy upon shoulders that dared not bend. Gabriella sat quietly, her heart racing as the dim light of dawn filled the stable. The familiar scents of hay and leather enveloped her, grounding her in this moment. She watched Fantasma from her wooden stool, his massive form standing still at the back of his stall, those dark eyes glimmering with uncertainty, yet intense curiosity. "Good morning, Fantasma," she murmured softly, keeping her voice steady and soothing. Each syllable floated gently between them, a thread connecting their souls. He remained motionless, but Gabriella could see the muscles in his powerful body quivering slightly, a sign of tension that mirrored her own feelings. She pulled an apple from her pocket, slightly wrinkled but sweet nonetheless, and held it out at arm's length. "I brought you something," she continued, placing it on the ground just outside his reach. The apple lay there like a bridge between their worlds, a simple offering laden with meaning. Fantasma's nostrils flared as he caught wind of the fruit's scent. For a fleeting second, she saw him hesitate before taking a tentative step forward. Gabriella barely breathed as he inched closer to inspect this peculiar item so foreign to him now. "That's it." Her words were barely above a whisper, but laced with encouragement. In response to her calming tone, he hesitated again before stretching out his neck cautiously toward the apple. His initial wariness transformed into curiosity. His soft muzzle brushed against her fingertips as he reached for the treat. "See? It's safe," she coaxed gently when he paused mid-motion, her heart swelling with pride and hope at this moment of contact between them. But then shadows crept back across Fantasma's instincts. One sudden movement from Gabriella sent him bolting backward into the corner of his stall again. She felt a pang of frustration mixed with compassion, seeing him revert to fear so quickly after such progress. "No pressure," she reassured him quietly while maintaining eye contact. The bond they were building, shimmering like delicate silk threads weaving together their lives in ways both fragile and profound. Time drifted around them. Days morphed into weeks where Gabriella committed herself entirely to nurturing trust between them. An intricate dance shaped by mutual respect rather than dominance or control. They established an unspoken routine. Each day began well before dawn, where she would arrive carrying nothing more than an old wooden stool and some apples tucked safely away in pockets lined with hope. Settling beside Fantasma's stall became sacred, a ritual woven through countless serene mornings spent together under filtered rays cascading through high windows above. Their shared sanctuary removed from prying eyes burdened by expectations pressing heavily upon shoulders that dared not yield to doubt. The sun rose quietly, casting a warm glow over the Hienda Vientos as Gabriella made her way to Fantasma's stable. Each step felt weighted with purpose and anticipation as she clutched her old wooden stool and a small bag filled with apples, their sweet scent mingling in the crisp morning air. She could hear the gentle rustle of hay within the stable and the soft snorts from within that hinted at Fantasma's restless energy. As she settled onto her stool outside his stall, Gabriella inhaled deeply, letting the familiar aroma of horses and fresh straw envelop her like a comforting embrace. The world around them faded into stillness. It was just her and Fantasma in this moment, two solitary souls seeking connection amid chaos. With deliberate slowness, she placed an apple on the ground between them, a silent offering that spoke volumes. Fantasma stood at the far side of his stall, his massive frame tense yet curious, as he watched Gabriella through dark eyes filled with uncertainty. Though he had not charged at her in days, she knew he still bore scars invisible to anyone but him, emotional wounds that would take time to heal. "Good morning," she said softly, keeping her voice steady despite the fluttering anxiety twisting in her stomach. His ears flicked toward her voice, hesitating for just a heartbeat before returning to their forward position. It was a small victory, one that ignited hope within Gabriella's chest, but they both understood trust could not be rushed. In this space between them lay unspoken fears and memories locked away behind walls both thick and impenetrable. Over time, Gabriella crafted rituals out of their shared mornings, gentle conversations about the day ahead or stories of her childhood adventures. She spoke of nothing important, only ordinary tales meant to fill silence with warmth while they adjusted to one another's presence. Days melded together as Fantasma began inching closer during these sessions until eventually he would stand near enough for Gabriella to catch glimpses of softness hidden beneath layers of agitation. Each moment spent together deepened their bond. Each shared breath broke down barriers built by fear and misunderstanding. When she finally dared to extend an apple toward him again, after several days of carefully observing his body language, the subtle shifts signaling acceptance or rejection, she felt something shift inside herself too. Fantasma approached slowly that day. It was almost imperceptible how he edged closer while maintaining eye contact, an act so brave it took Gabriella's breath away. He sniffed cautiously at the apple resting in her palm before taking it gingerly between his teeth, lifting his head ever so slightly as if asking permission before indulging himself fully. "That's right," she murmured encouragingly when he finished devouring every morsel with obvious delight. A slight flicker of joy illuminated his once volatile gaze as he looked back towards her expectantly for more treats or praise alike. Days rolled into weeks, and the bond between Gabriella and Fantasma deepened with each passing dawn. The air in the stable was thick with anticipation as Gabriella continued to visit him daily, her old wooden stool becoming a familiar sight just outside his stall. She spoke softly, her voice a gentle caress against the backdrop of clattering hooves and rustling hay. Each morning began with an offering of apples, which she carefully placed in front of him as if presenting treasures from the earth. One crisp morning, however, as she settled beside Fantasma's stall under the golden light streaming through the high windows, an unexpected sound shattered their sanctuary. A series of sharp voices carried through the stable doors. The unmistakable tone of skepticism permeated the atmosphere like a dark cloud threatening rain. "She's wasting her time," one voice sneered. "That horse is beyond saving." Gabriella's heart sank at the sound of Javier's dismissive tone echoing against stone walls. Maya stood nearby, arms crossed and eyebrows furrowed in disbelief. "You don't understand," Maya countered defensively. "Gabriella has made real progress with him." Javier scoffed, his laughter ringing hollow. "Progress? Look at him. A dangerous beast locked away while we waste precious resources on this folly." He gestured dramatically toward Fantasma's stall, as if branding him with an indelible mark of shame. The words cut deep. They stung more than any whip or harsh command ever could. Gabriella felt heat rise to her cheeks, resentment bubbling within her chest like a simmering pot about to boil over. She glanced at Fantasma, who stood alert in his stall, ears pricked forward. He too seemed to sense the tension crackling around them. "Give her a chance," Maya insisted fiercely. There was fire in her voice that rallied behind Gabriella like a protective shield against judgment. Yet doubt lingered in their eyes, those doubts echoed by Javier's retorts filled with bravado. "What makes you think you're any different from all those trainers who failed before you?" he challenged sharply, stepping closer to where Gabriella sat frozen on her stool. She took a breath, grounding herself against his harsh criticism while searching for strength within that fragile connection she had forged with Fantasma, their shared solitude transforming into something more profound than mere companionship. "Because I believe he deserves kindness," she replied firmly yet calmly. Every word was steeped in sincerity, born from nights spent listening quietly to his unspoken fears and struggles. "Kindness won't tame a monster," Javier shot back without missing a beat. The bitterness laced through his words struck another chord deep inside. Guilt gnawed at Gabriella, the feeling that perhaps there was merit to his argument. What if she truly couldn't succeed where others had failed? Fantasma shifted restlessly behind the bars of his stall, as if sensing the weight of disapproval aimed toward them both. He huffed softly, but remained motionless otherwise, his soul weary from being labeled as dangerous. Gabriella settled into a rhythm as she embarked on her training with Fantasma, each morning feeling more like a delicate dance than mere horse handling. The early sun filtered through the stable's high windows, casting golden shafts of light that seemed to illuminate the way forward. She would arrive before dawn, her heart racing with anticipation, and find solace in the quiet air that surrounded them both. The first few days were spent simply existing together. She, outside his stall, while he remained ensconced in his own world of uncertainty. But today was different. She dared to step across the threshold into his space again. Her heartbeat quickened as she approached slowly, arms outstretched but palms empty, not presenting an offering this time, just herself. "I'm here," she whispered softly. Fantasma stood at the back of his stall, muscles tense beneath his white coat that glimmered even in the dimness. His dark eyes tracked her every movement. Each twitch of an ear signaled unspoken thoughts swirling behind those intelligent depths. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, Gabriella crossed the distance until she was nearly nose to nose with him, but not imposing any further than necessary. "I know it's hard for you," she murmured, taking care to keep her voice soft and steady. "You don't have to be afraid of me." There was a long moment where nothing happened, only the sound of their breathing mingled in shared silence until Fantasma took a tentative step forward. As if testing waters long deemed treacherous, he edged closer while maintaining eye contact, a monumental act that sent warmth blooming within Gabriella's chest. He sniffed cautiously at her outstretched hand before gently taking an old apple from her palm, lifting his head slightly as though seeking permission first before fully indulging himself. "That's it," she encouraged when he finished devouring every morsel. A flicker of joy ignited in his once volatile gaze as he looked back toward her expectantly for more treats or praise alike. But doubt still nibbled at Gabriella's resolve whenever Javier's harsh words echoed through her mind. "Kindness won't tame a monster." The bitterness laced through his tone struck yet another chord deep inside her, a nagging guilt worming its way into her thoughts about whether there might indeed be truth woven within those criticisms. Fantasma shifted restlessly behind the bars of his stall, as if sensing the weight pressing upon them both. He huffed softly, but remained motionless otherwise, his soul weary from being labeled dangerous for so long. Gabriella shook off these fears and instead focused on developing their bond further, the connection between them blossoming into something far richer than mere companionship. Training began in earnest after that fateful day. However much trepidation lingered behind each interaction transformed into determination fueled by love and empathy. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over Hienda Vientos, as Gabriella approached Fantasma's stable, her heart brimming with hope. Over the past weeks, their bond had deepened into something extraordinary. Each day spent together wove threads of trust and understanding between them. Today, she felt ready to take another significant step forward. As she settled on her stool outside his stall, the familiar sense of hay and leather filled her senses. Fantasma stood watching her with those piercing dark eyes that seemed to search for reassurance within her. "Good morning," she greeted softly, feeling the warmth of an apple nestled in her pocket, a small offering to share in their journey. Fantasma shifted slightly, but remained still. There was a new calmness about him that gave Gabriella confidence. She held out the wrinkled apple, placing it gently on the ground before him. "It's your favorite," she coaxed, hoping he would take a step closer this time. For several long moments they lingered in silence, Gabriella breathing steadily while Fantasma observed from his distance, muscles taut yet curious. But just as it seemed he might move toward her, a loud clap of thunder rumbled overhead, startling both horse and trainer alike. Fantasma reared back instinctively against the rear wall of his stall, panic igniting in those expressive eyes. "Easy now," Gabriella called out soothingly as he danced nervously on his hooves. Her voice trembled slightly. Fear threaded its way through her veins like ice water, but she fought to remain steady for him. She knew that each sound echoed his troubled past, every unexpected noise pushing at the boundaries they had built together. In an instant, a heartbeat, Fantasma exploded into action, crashing against the door of his stall with sheer force and fury. Wood splintered under impact as he struck out against invisible demons lurking within shadows. Gabriella gasped, but did not falter. She stayed rooted by compassion, even when fright clawed at her chest. "I'm here! You're safe!" she insisted firmly but gently, while remaining motionless against the wall near the open doorway, her body language radiating calm even when adrenaline surged inside. He galloped around his confined space again and again until exhaustion took hold and brought him to a standstill in front of her, sides heaving wildly as though he'd run from an unseen predator instead of merely confronting fears conjured by nature itself. It was only then that Gabriella noticed faint scars etched along his flanks, glinting under fading sunlight, a visceral reminder of all he had endured before arriving at Hienda Vientos. Anger rose sharply within her. How could anyone inflict such cruelty on such a magnificent creature? The guilt that accompanied Javier's words crept back uninvited. Kindness won't tame a monster. Yet now wasn't the time for doubts or regrets. The realization hit harder than any physical blow. If they were going to heal together, not only physically but emotionally, it would require patience beyond measure and deeper faith than ever before. Fantasma stood rigidly, his breath coming in sharp bursts, eyes wide as he shifted within the confines of his stall. The afternoon sun filtered through the high windows, casting long shadows that danced across the stone floor. Gabriella knew this was a critical moment. Tension crackled in the air like static electricity. She took a steadying breath, her pulse quickening in rhythm with the stallion's agitation. "Easy now," she murmured, her voice soft yet firm as she stepped closer to the bars. "I'm not here to hurt you." Fantasma's nostrils flared as he processed her presence, muscles taut and ready for flight. A small flicker of doubt slithered into Gabriella's mind. Was Javier right? Would kindness ever be enough to reach this tortured soul? With resolve coursing through her veins, she extended a hand toward him, palm open and relaxed. The scars along his flanks caught her eye again, silent witnesses to his past torment, and anger surged within her at those who had mistreated him. How could anyone be so cruel? It solidified her determination. They would heal together. Fantasma let out an exasperated huff, but didn't move away from her gaze. His dark eyes bore into hers, filled with a mixture of fear and curiosity, as if he were attempting to decipher whether this stranger before him could truly be trusted, or was just another person bent on breaking him further. Gabriella softened her tone even more, lowering herself onto one knee outside his stall, a gesture of vulnerability aimed at bridging the distance between them. "You don't have to be afraid," she whispered gently, allowing silence to envelop them like a warm blanket, while remaining acutely aware of every subtle shift in Fantasma's demeanor. Moments passed where nothing but their breaths intertwined in the space between them, the stallion's deep grunts punctuating the stillness around them. Her heart raced as she realized they were both locked in an invisible dance, one seeking escape from pain while the other yearned for connection amid chaos. After what felt like an eternity, Fantasma edged forward slightly, just a whisper of movement. But it was monumental nonetheless. Gabriella held her breath as he tilted his head curiously toward her outstretched hand. Encouraged by this progress, she dared to speak again. "See, we're going to figure this out together." With each passing day since their first meeting outside his stall, their bond deepened like roots finding purchase in rocky soil, despite lingering doubts that echoed Javier's words about taming monsters with kindness alone. Yet every inch gained with Fantasma felt worth celebrating, even if they were mere whispers compared to others' expectations. Their training sessions began anew, each encounter layered with intention and patience, poured forth from Gabriella's heart alongside quiet affirmations offered freely amid tender moments shared between two souls, learning how to trust once more. The morning air was thick with tension. As Gabriella stood in the center of the paddock, her heart racing against the cool breeze that swept through Hienda Vientos. Fantasma grazed nearby, his white coat shimmering under the sun's gentle rays, yet she felt an undeniable weight pressing down on her shoulders. Today marked a pivotal moment, one where their hard-fought bond would be scrutinized by others, her family and the critics who still doubted her methods. Don Rodrigo had gathered the family, along with several local equestrians and breeders who were eager to witness this transformation firsthand. As they took their places around the paddock, murmurs rippled through the crowd. She caught snippets of conversation. "A horse once deemed untrainable," someone whispered. Another added, "Let's see if she can really ride him." Gabriella swallowed hard, her throat dry from nerves. The atmosphere buzzed with skepticism and expectation as she walked toward Fantasma, feeling the intense gazes on her back like burning coals. He lifted his head at her approach, those deep eyes reflecting curiosity mixed with uncertainty, a mirror of her own feelings. "Remember what we've worked for," she murmured softly to him, reaching out to stroke his neck gently. The stallion nickered softly in response, though a slight twitch of his ears revealed he sensed their audience's critical energy. "This is just us," she reassured him quietly. With determination settling within her chest like a solid anchor, Gabriella mounted Fantasma carefully. Her legs barely brushed against him when he shifted uneasily beneath her weight, a slight flinch that sent echoes of doubt reverberating through both horse and rider alike. Instinctively gripping tighter to his mane for stability without squeezing too tightly to set off alarm bells within him. "Easy there," she said calmly but firmly as he sidestepped away from the fence line where observers stood watching intently, shadows watching shadows, the essence of fear creeping into each cautious step he took forward. For a split second, it felt like all eyes were glued solely to them, the connection between them palpable yet teetering on fragile trust that could shatter at any moment under scrutiny and pressure. Gabriella remembered how far they had come together, how many hours they'd spent healing old wounds buried beneath layers of fear and anger. As if sensing her inner turmoil mirrored in him, Fantasma steadied himself after a brief moment of hesitation, finally taking a breath deep enough to send shivers down Gabriella's spine, an electrifying awareness building between them amid flickers of apprehension tingling at every nerve ending. Her grip relaxed slightly as she coaxed him forward gently towards an open area within sight of the spectators' growing anticipation. "Let's show them what you're capable of," she encouraged quietly while directing soft pressure with her legs, daring to hope this was truly their moment. With tentative steps that echoed throughout Hienda Vientos' tranquil morning ambiance, until suddenly, Fantasma surged ahead. Gabriella's heart raced as Fantasma surged forward, his powerful legs carrying him across the open space with a grace that took her breath away. The world around them fell silent as spectators leaned closer, anticipation crackling in the air like electricity. She felt an exhilarating mix of fear and pride as she encouraged him to express himself fully, to show the beauty hidden beneath layers of past pain. "Come on, boy. Show them what you've got," Gabriella urged softly, coaxing him to let loose the spirit that had been trapped for far too long. As Fantasma galloped ahead, each stride echoed through the paddock, a rhythmic thrum resonating deep within her chest. He was magnificent, every muscle working in perfect harmony, his coat shimmering in the sunlight like polished marble. For a fleeting moment, it felt as if they were one, a seamless union of horse and rider. But then it happened. Just as Gabriella began to guide Fantasma into an elegant circle, he suddenly balked at an unseen shadow flickering among the trees lining the arena's edge. Panic seized him, muscles tensed under her legs, and before she could react fully, he reared up on his hind legs, snorting like a storm brewing overhead. "Easy! Easy now!" Gabriella called out urgently, her voice steady despite the surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. She maintained eye contact with him while holding tightly yet gently onto the reins, guiding their connection amidst chaos. Fantasma's eyes darted wildly around them. Fear danced within those dark depths, old instincts flaring up in response to an imagined threat. With swift precision, born from instinct rather than thought, she shifted her weight slightly back and whispered calming affirmations into his ear, the familiar phrase of, "I'm here," spilling forth repeatedly like an incantation against dread. The tension was palpable between them. Every beat of her heart seemed intertwined with his. Gradually, he began to lower himself back down to all fours, but not without hesitation. His powerful frame quivered beneath her touch even as he slowly turned toward her voice. The trust, still delicate, but recovering in increments after weeks spent nurturing their bond in quiet moments together. "You're okay," Gabriella soothed softly once more, as she felt some semblance of calm return to both horse and rider alike amidst this pivotal test, this moment when everything they'd worked for hung precariously in balance. As if sensing that they needed reassurance from one another more than ever now, two souls intertwined by shared struggles, Fantasma stepped forward hesitantly until they stood face to face again amid a crowd that held its collective breath. "Let's try again," she said firmly yet tenderly, while feeling raw determination swell inside herself alongside vulnerable hope. A reminder that failure did not define them, but rather refined their journey together through adversity instead. "Show me who you really are." The crowd held its breath, anticipation weaving a tangible thread through the air as Gabriella sat poised atop Fantasma. The sunlight danced across the stallion's gleaming coat, illuminating his muscles that twitched beneath the surface, ready to spring into action. With a deep inhalation that rattled against Gabriella's chest, she felt every nerve in her body attuned to Fantasma's. They were two beings intertwined by shared experiences and resilience. "Let's show them what you're capable of," she whispered, nudging him gently with her legs while grounding herself in an unwavering calmness. Her heart raced. This was their moment, their opportunity to demonstrate the profound bond they had cultivated over countless hours of healing. Slowly at first, Fantasma stepped forward with hesitant grace, each hooffall resonating against the earth like thunderclaps, amid a silence thick with expectation. Gabriella felt his energy ebbing and flowing, mirroring her own uncertainty, but also awakening an exhilarating determination within her. "Easy now," she soothed as he began to gather speed, a powerful surge that sent ripples of adrenaline coursing through both their veins. She gripped the reins tightly, but not restrictively, feeling the delicate balance between guidance and freedom shift beneath her fingertips. As they moved together across the open space before the spectators, a vibrant mosaic of colors and emotions, the world outside faded away. All that existed was Fantasma and Gabriella, symbiotic partners united by purpose and trust. With each stride he took, confidence blossomed anew within him. She could sense it growing alongside their connection. "You've got this," Gabriella encouraged firmly yet lovingly as they weaved through patterns in syncopated harmony. She could see glimmers of who he once had been flicker behind his dark eyes. Her heart swelled as he soared into a brilliant trot. His legs arched elegantly like finely crafted artwork brought to life before an enraptured audience. They were creating something beautiful together, not merely riding, but embodying a dance where horse and rider became one soul, communicating seamlessly without words. Then came an exhilarating canter, a heartbeat driven by pure instinct. Fantasma unleashed himself from years of confinement within those stifling walls. He galloped freely around them with exuberance unbound, hooves striking earth with resonant power, while mane streamed behind him like silk caught in a summer breeze. Gabriella felt weightless atop him, all worries dissipated amidst vibrant joy radiating from their shared journey. In this moment of flight, of life, they displayed not just skill, but transformed anguish into poetry, set free on wind-tousled fields where nothing mattered except for their shared resolve against adversity. A collective gasp arose from those gathered nearby as they witnessed this impossible transformation unfold right before them. No longer did Fantasma embody anger or fear, but pride. And Gabriella reveled in seeing it reflected back at her through his movements. Gabriella held her breath, the air thick with anticipation, as she looked deep into Fantasma's dark eyes. "Let's try again," she urged gently, her voice steady, yet filled with an undercurrent of fierce hope. It was a pivotal moment, the culmination of their arduous journey together, and she could feel the weight of every soul present pressing upon them. The crowd was silent, hearts collectively suspended in time. Fantasma shifted uneasily beneath her, his muscles quivering with tension as he instinctively searched for reassurance from her touch. She reached down, feeling the warm pulse of his neck beneath her fingers, grounding both him and herself in this profound connection they had nurtured over countless days and nights. "Trust me," she whispered softly, drawing on every ounce of courage that had been forged through shared struggle. With slow determination, Gabriella squeezed gently with her legs, a subtle cue that spoke volumes to the stallion who had known far too much pain. As if responding to her quiet strength and belief in him, Fantasma took a deep breath before gathering himself. Then he began to move forward. In an instant, he surged into motion, no longer shackled by fear or anger, but propelled by pride and liberation. Hooves pounded rhythmically against the earth like thunder rolling through the valley, echoing their newfound freedom as he galloped around them with unrestrained joy. His magnificent white mane streamed behind him like gossamer caught in a summer wind. It shimmered in the light like liquid silver against a backdrop of vibrant green fields. Gabriella felt exhilarated atop him, weightless amid this surge of energy that pulsed between horse and rider, a tangible manifestation of triumph over adversity. They danced together across the arena, not simply executing movements, but expressing something deeper. They transformed anguish into poetry written across open skies. Gasps rippled through the audience gathered nearby as they bore witness to this extraordinary metamorphosis unfold before their eyes. Fantasma no longer embodied rage or mistrust. Instead, radiated elegance and confidence. He moved fluidly with Gabriella, as if rehearsing an age-old story long forgotten, but now reclaimed in their dance. "Show them who you really are," Gabriella encouraged him softly, marveling at how far they had come since that first tentative encounter when all seemed impossible, a moment when everyone else had deemed Fantasma untamable. As they glided seamlessly through elegant movements crafted for centuries past, the Andalusian trot became almost ethereal, as though Fantasma were not merely a horse, but a celestial being soaring above earthly restraints. Gabriella reveled in witnessing it all, their bond strengthened by trials faced together blooming into something breathtakingly beautiful under open skies where nothing mattered save for their collective resolve against what once threatened to break them apart. The sunlight bathed the paddock in a golden hue, illuminating Fantasma as he moved with a fluid grace that seemed to defy the very laws of nature. Gabriella felt every ripple of his powerful muscles beneath her. It was an exhilarating reminder of how far they had come together. No longer did she ride a haunted creature consumed by anger and fear. Instead, she rode a proud stallion who embraced life with unrestrained joy, galloping freely across the verdant fields. As he raced, his mane flowed like a silken banner behind him, catching the breeze in its embrace. Their rhythm synchronized perfectly, a dance born from pain, transformed into exhilaration under the open sky. Each leap over the gentle undulations of land echoed their shared resilience against adversity. The spectators nearby watched with bated breath, jaws dropping as they witnessed this miraculous metamorphosis. Fantasma had shed his past like an old skin and emerged reborn. "Look at you," Gabriella murmured, her heart swelling with pride and affection for this magnificent creature who had taught her so much about trust and healing. She urged him onward, encouraging him to display not just strength, but also artistry, each movement now imbued with purpose as they swept through intricate patterns crafted over centuries by masters before them. A gasp rippled through the crowd when Fantasma performed an elegant Andalusian trot, each step deliberate yet effortless, as though he were floating above the earth rather than running upon it. The bond between horse and rider was palpable. It hummed through the air like an electric current, proof that love could conquer even the deepest scars left by betrayal. "Show them who you really are," Gabriella whispered softly into his ear as they executed flawless transitions from trot to canter. They displayed not only skill, but also an undeniable connection that transcended words. With each stride forward, Gabriella recalled those early days spent outside his stall, the hours spent listening to Fantasma's silence while she poured her heart out into that quiet space until he learned to trust her voice. As they glided smoothly through flowing movements honed by time and tradition, Gabriella marveled at how far they had traveled together since that first fateful meeting, when hope seemed elusive amidst despair's shadow looming over both their lives. Now, radiant under bright sunshine reflected off his brilliant white coat, Fantasma embodied everything they had fought against. No longer was he just a horse labeled the devil, but rather a testament to resilience forged from hardship. In this glorious moment where hearts beat in unison amid applause, echoing around them like thunder rolling across distant hillsides, Gabriella reveled in witnessing all that their journey represented. Not merely triumph over trial, but also restoration born from compassion interwoven throughout each interaction shared between them. As the last notes of applause faded into the warm afternoon air, Gabriella gently guided Fantasma back to her side, his coat gleaming like polished ivory under the sun. The crowd's cheers still reverberated in her ears, but all she could focus on was the bond they had forged together through countless trials, an unbreakable connection that transcended mere rider and horse. "Did you see that?" she exclaimed, laughter bubbling forth as she ran her fingers through his silky mane. Fantasma nickered softly, his dark eyes sparkling with a newfound confidence. The weight of their shared journey hung in the atmosphere between them, a reminder of how far they had come since those early days when fear and doubt loomed large. They strolled away from the arena together, the world around them slowly quieting. Spectators began to disperse, but Gabriella's heart swelled with pride as she caught sight of Don Rodrigo at the fence, his face lit with admiration. He had witnessed not just a performance, but a metamorphosis. He had seen Gabriella step into her rightful place within the family legacy. "Come here," he called out to her, waving his arms as if he could hardly contain himself. "You did it! You truly did it!" The joy radiating from him was infectious. She felt warmth spread through her chest as she walked over with Fantasma beside her, who seemed to mirror her delight by prancing slightly at her side. "You were incredible," Maya added, beaming as she joined them with Javier and Christian flanking their father. I told you. You've changed everything. Gabriella couldn't help but smile wider at their enthusiasm. It felt like acceptance flowing freely now, a welcome shift in their dynamic that made her heart soar higher than ever before. It wasn't just me, she replied humbly, glancing down at Fantasma, who snorted playfully beside her. We did this together. As they gathered around for hugs and congratulations, Gabriella's gaze kept returning to Fantasma. The stallion who had once been deemed unmanageable now stood proud and calm amidst all the excitement surrounding him. Later that evening, after everyone had returned home and silence settled comfortably across Hienda Vientos like a soft blanket draped over weary shoulders, Gabriella found herself alone in the paddock with Fantasma once more. The sky blazed red and orange as sunset bled across the horizon, while fireflies began dancing in the twilight air. Sitting on a low wooden stool beneath an old olive tree outside his paddock, just as she'd done months ago when first reaching out to him, she watched him graze peacefully nearby. His movements were fluid now. Gone was that frenzied energy, replaced by grace earned through patience and understanding. Can you believe how far we've come? She murmured softly into the dusk, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over her like cool water after a long drought. For so long they'd navigated storms, both external and internal, only to emerge stronger for it all, their scars telling stories no one else could understand entirely.